Good morning, referral partners. I'm Everett Simmons with the Construction Zone Electrical Contracting. And I'm going to start out by saying, at my last presentation, at the end, Billy told me that I didn't put her to sleep. I did a good job. So no pressure, Billy, but I'm going to keep you awake today, okay?
I learned something too.
We're going to start out. This is the National Electrical Code. This is great reading. I mean, it's a real page turner. It's got a lot of calculations and a lot of code references to go back and forth. But what this does is this tells you how to do everything electrical, from replacing a plug to building the MGM. Whatever you need to know is in this book. High rises, shopping centers, swimming pools, everything is described in this book. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through something. Let's just say that Tina or Tanya called me and say, hey Everett, I got an inspection. And the home inspector said a couple of outlets aren't GFI protected. There's need to be protected within 6 feet of a sink. They're not. So what I do is, in order to do that, I go to the National Electrical Code and say, how do I replace these receptacles at the sink? So the first thing I do is, I go through section 406.12, and it says that let's go. I go through 406.12, tamper resistant. I'll go through that in a second. Section 210.8, ground fault circuit interrupter protection, and section 10.12, arc fault interrupter protection. And I will go through tamper resistant receptacles. All non-locking type 15 and 20 amp, 125 volt receptacles in the following areas of the dwelling unit must be listed as tamper resistant: a wall space, small appliance, circuit, countertop. Well, kitchen is a countertop. So now I know that the kitchen circuit's got to be tamper resistant. A tamper resistant receptacle is a receptacle that you can't take a bobby pin or a nail and put in these holes. That makes it tamper resistant, okay? So I know that it's got to be bathroom areas, outdoors, laundry areas, garage, outbuildings, and hallways all have to be tamper resistant for kids, so you can't get in there. I have to go to section 210.8, and it says ground fault circuit interrupter protection, 15 and 20 amp receptacles installed in the location specific 1 through 9 shall have ground fault circuit interrupter protection. Bathroom, garages, outdoors, crawl spaces, unfinished basements. Here we go with the kitchens again. So now that kitchen circuit's got to be tamper resistant, and it's got to be ground fault resistant. Okay? With me so far? Okay. Let's go to section 210.12, arc fault circuit interrupter protection. Arc fault protection of circuits serving outlets, not just receptacles, in dwelling kitchens. And we got the dang old kitchen again. So now that kitchen receptacle has to be tamper resistant, ground fault circuit interrupter protected, and arc fault circuit interrupter protected. And let me just give you a quick what the difference is. Ground fault circuit interrupter protected. This one's brown. It doesn't matter if it's brown or white. This is designed to stop you from getting electrocuted. This shuts off the power in like 1/20th of a second if it notices that the power is going somewhere where it's not supposed to. For example, let's say you've got an old refrigerator that's been in your house for 10 years or something, and you decide you want to put a new one in your kitchen. You take the old one and put it into your garage. The garage is a concrete floor which conducts electricity. Let's say you have a 2-year-old or 3-year-old granddaughter or grandbaby, or maybe you have an 85 or a 90-year-old parent. They're coming out of the swimming pool, they're coming out of the rain, they want a juice. They open the refrigerator up, they're standing with no shoes on the concrete floor, it's leaking current, it could be a problem. That's why ground faults have to be in the garage, because if it's a problem, this will cut it off, this will stop electrocution, okay? The next one is arc fault. Arc fault doesn't care if you get electrocuted or not. The only purpose of the arc fault is, Billy, your insurance company demands this. That's how you keep your rates low. This prevents lots of fires. The only purpose of an arc fault is to determine if there's a potential fire. I've gone through a lot of houses, and I bought some of these. A lot of receptacles, wires are burned up in the walls. They have a problem, they don't know what it is. I come out there, it's burned up. It's melted, it's burnt. This arc fault circuit interrupter will shut it down. Yeah, we'll have to come through. You see where it just burnt the whole plug out? This arc fault circuit interrupter will shut it down so that the house doesn't catch a fire. So we got the tamper resistant is strictly to keep kids from poking things in it. The GFI is strictly to keep you from electrocuting or somebody from electrocuting themselves. The AFCI is to stop a fire. All three of these have to be in that kitchen receptacle that I'm replacing. That's what the code says. What happens is they make a plug. This plug here is tamper resistant, it's GFI protected, and it's AFCI protected. This does everything. This plug costs $40. So now if you've got two plugs, one on the left side and one on the right side of your sink that needs to be replaced, I gotta put in two of these. It's $80. Service call, $100, $110. You're on $190 to change two receptacles. Whereas before, if you're only gonna buy a receptacle to put in, it's 95 cents. So to have to go to the homeowners and explain to them why this service call is not gonna be $100, it's $200. Because this code says, when that home inspector comes in here, he says, have a licensed electrical contractor look at this and fix it. Well, I gotta go in and fix it what the code says. So that's the reason why, that's the purpose of these AFCIs, these GFCIs, and the tamper resistant. If not, some really good lawyer is gonna get me in court, depose me. I'll have to go to sue and be defended. And she's gonna say, Everett, didn't you know what you were doing? Why did you do that? You know, so anyway, I just wanted to go with that. It really does stop a lot of electrocutions. It really does stop a lot of fires. It does stop kids from going in. It doesn't take but one mistake, one catastrophe, and you really wish that it was done correctly. When you go to a handyman, he's gonna do it cheaper. Is he gonna do it right? My mom said, put her on the spot, sent my son and I a text and it says, good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. That's all I have. Any questions for me?
Can I borrow that one?
Yes, that's yours. That's my mom. Hey, I stole it from her, so if you steal it, you're stealing it twice. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Tony.
You said GFI?
GFI stands for Ground Fault Circuit Interrupter. AFCI stands for Arc Fault Circuit Interrupter. A regular GFI receptacle is about $20. A arc fault circuit interrupter is about $27. A GFI arc fault, these are called dual purpose GFI arc fault, these are $40. Another thing that if I go through the code here, which it does say, arc fault circuit receptacles are required in family rooms, dining rooms, parlors, libraries, dens, bedrooms, sunrooms, rec rooms, closets, hallways, laundry rooms, and similar rooms.
That's pretty much a house.
Well, if you notice, there's one room missing in that house. Who can tell me what the one room is that's missing?
Bathroom.
Bathroom. AFCIs aren't required in the bathrooms. That's 2014 code. The code comes out every 3 years. My guess is in 2017, they're going to come out with bathrooms. They've come out with everything else. And one more slide I didn't want to show you before I... Well, it makes more money, but it saves money too, so. Come on. There we go. Replacements. Just to make sure I'm clear. This thing also, it handles replacements. Because it's an older house, you think it's grandfathered in? No. Let's clear that up. 406.4, ground fault circuit interrupter. Ground fault circuit interrupter protected receptacle should be provided where replacements made at the receptacle outlets that are required to be so protected everywhere else in this code. If I replace it and it's required in the code for new, I've got to replace it with what it said. Arc fault circuit interrupter, where receptacle outlet is supplied by a branch circuit, requires arc fault interrupter protection as specified elsewhere in this code. A replacement receptacle at the outlet shall be one of the following: enlisted arc fault like this, or the other option is I could put it in a breaker. This comes in a receptacle and it also comes in a breaker form. Both of them do. So I either have to protect it in a receptacle or a breaker form. So this says as a replacement, I gotta replace it with GFI. If it's somewhere else in the code it calls for it, I've gotta replace it with AFCI if it calls for it somewhere else in the code. And tamper resistant, the same thing. If it calls for tamper resistant somewhere else in the code, I gotta replace it with the tamper resistant. Now I'm finished. Any other questions? Craig.
On my pool, I have a pump cover, or cover for my pool, and a pump that's always there, and I have it plugged in. If I'm not using the pool all winter long, it's plugged in so the water gets on there. It's, for some reason, every couple months, I gotta go out there and reset the ground fault because it's not working. Why is there water on my, cover? And I just go out there and push the red. It pushes the red in, and I think the black comes out on that, and then all of a sudden I look over and the pump's working.
Well, it's very sensitive. It's sensitive to the point 500 milliamps of current is what it takes to set it off. Because 500 milliamps of current is what it takes to cause somebody that's a small child or a senior citizen or a weaker person with a weakened immune system or whatever. It takes 500 milliamps or more to cause problems. So this thing here, if it notices 500 milliamps, it'll shut down, whether it's leaking through water or whatever. It just notices it's leaking.
It could just probably be moisture.
It could be
from the air
moisture.
that got blown
Yes.
in there.
Now the other thing is, it depends on how long it was put in, but this is a weather-resistant GFCI. So there are regular GFCIs for like a kitchen, and then there's also weather-resistant GFCIs for exterior and water-wet locations. So it could be, the fact is that you're able to reset it, means it's not a big deal. If it no longer works, then it won't be able to reset.
Okay.
So, Tina?
What was the distance from the sink you said again?
6 feet.
6 feet, okay.
It doesn't matter if it's a laundry tub, if it's a bathroom sink, if it's a kitchen sink. If there is a plug within 6 feet of a sink, it needs to be GFCI protected.
And the laundry tub is considered a sink technically?
Anything that's a sink is considered a sink.
Has water coming out?
Well, I meant the
A
actual
faucet? Washing machine, because they call that tub.
Well, the washing machine, it says the laundry room has to be GFCI protected and AFCI and tamper resistant, the whole laundry room. But if you're in an older home and you have a laundry sink there, if there's a receptacle within 6 feet of it, it needs to be GFCI protected. The reason is this, Tina, most cords are 6 feet. And so you can't have a cord where you can be at the laundry. And just as a side note, every time I put a plug in a building, in a home, it can't be no longer than 12 feet apart. Because everywhere you go in there, you can't be no more than 6 feet from a receptacle in that room. So, on the wall. So, that's the reason why we got the 6 foot rule. Yes, Tony?
And you know this because they have a little red button that's an automatic brake light, right?
Well, both the GFI and the AFCI, and the buttons aren't always red. This one button is brown. Some buttons are white. Some of them are red and black. But the AFCI has buttons, and they look just like the GFCI. The only reason you can tell is because this says GFCI and this says AFCI, or to say combination. But that's the only way you can tell just at first glance.
So it's kind of funny that you're doing this today because I was on Amazon last night because I wanted to order those plugs that you plug into the wall where you can plug your phone
Correct.
right into it.
Yes, sir.
And I was going through them and I was like, wait a minute, let me just stop for a minute and go order it and make sure I order the right one. So now I got my notes.
There you go. There you go. Yes, sir.
Joe Sixpack. I got a house and I'm pretty handy with a screwdriver. I can change an outlet. Where would I go to look up to see what the codes and stuff are?
Well, right now you can take a picture of this because 406D tells you. Well, let's go back. Let's go back.
Can you send that slide deck out?
I can send it to everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll send it to everybody. They'll show the code references. 210.8 is GFCIs, 210.12 is AFCIs, and I think it's 410.6 or 410.6.4 or something are the tamper resistant. So. And Joe Sixpack, my suggestion is hire a professional electrician. Okay, we don't want to see the house burn down. Anybody else have any questions?
Good stuff.
Great. I'm Everett. Did I keep you awake, Billy? I'm Everett Simmons, the Construction Zone Electrical Contracting. Homeowners, call us for all of your electrical needs. Thanks.